Well, welcome back into the garden here in Norfolk. We've got a bit of a job on here today. We're down in the wildlife area of the garden. This is a wooded, semi-wooded area, which in spring is full of spring bulbs, daffodils, snowdrops, bluebells. But by middle of May, as you can see, we're starting to get the perennial hardy weeds really taking over. And it's a case of trying to manage this so that the more natural flowers like the Campion and the cow parsley really predominate in here. It's an ideal time of year to do it. May's a really rapid growth time for these weeds, but it's also a nice moist soil. And by getting a grip of them now and literally just pulling most of them out, you can thin the density of nettles so that they don't predominate. And that will give the other flowering wildflowers a much better chance to establish and grow on here during the next 12 months. These thistles, for example, I'm not expecting to take any of the root out when I'm doing this. If it does come up, as you can see here, all the better, but these probably go down another 2 feet. What we're looking to do really is just debulk the foliage from the top, which will weaken the plant. Same with the nettles. Quite often you'll get a little bit of root coming up, but the main root may well stay in place. It doesn't matter. What you're doing is just giving these grasses and the cow parsley a much better start in this season so that they can become the dominant flowers in this grassy area, and it doesn't just turn into a nettle or a thistle bed. Now you might be thinking, well, nettles are great for wildlife and butterflies, and the thistles, when they flower later in the season, can be absolutely beautiful. But there's plenty of room for those around the periphery here. We're just going to do this in this central area where we've got the apple trees, and this is a white mulberry just behind me. You'll see just coming into flower the yellow magnolia, and behind that a pear tree that's just about finished flowering. But this is the area with the paths going through it that we want to be able to use throughout the summer months, and by keeping it in good order we'll encourage beautiful things like this, which will really give us some colour throughout the whole summer, particularly May and June. You can see in the banks here, by keeping the nettles down under this beech tree, we've got wild primrose growing. We've had snowdrops in this bank earlier in the season, and there's also lots more Campion seedling that's been established in here just by breaking the surface up by pulling these perennial weeds out. The hardest one to do is the dock. Now, very rarely, even at this time of year, will you do any better than that unless you're digging these out. But again, that will substantially weaken the dock so that it forms a much lower and much denser or less dense crown, allowing all these little beautiful things like the Campion, the buttercup and the other wildflowers, including this feverfew, which will give us a beautiful display later in the summer. It also allows the light to come down and feed all these bulbs, which are still forming their main store of energy to flower in the subsequent seasons.